I think that we are right to explore it. We are right to think about the implications of the power, the newfound power that our science gives us. But we should remember that there are many powers we had before we have this science, as you have just pointed out. There was infanticide on a massive scale, and there have been many examples of that type of selection and even selective breeding before there was the science. What our science does is now bring this set of tools to a wider group and make it more available.
And now also...
And may, but not yet, but may make some qualitative differences.
All right, well, let's go now. Now let's move to things that are possible now, in part,
and that's why it's worth the discussion.
Because of the kinds of things that you and other scientists have allowed us. Human growth hormone. I believe the FDA now allows it for limited purposes. If my son is going to be under 5'3", or my daughter is going to be under 4'11". I think that's rough. But why should I not be able, if I have this ability because of advances in science, why shouldn't I be able to, instead of give this hormone to my son so he can be 5'4", I want him to be a basketball player. And I also think that maybe height gives other social advantages in life, fairly or unfairly. So why should I be limited in my ability, given your scientific advance, to be able to make my child 6'2"?
I don't think, in fact, you are limited. I think if you found a doctor who was willing to do it, it's not illegal to do it.
Because the doctor can prescribe it outside, just like many other pharmacies.
Right. Once it's an approved drug, he can do it today.
Would you do that, Dr. Haseltine?
I am not a medical doctor, but I wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't?
Why not?
I don't think it's medically advisable. First of all, I don't think it's necessary, and I don't think it's a necessary good to be taller. Now, if it were a necessary, if I had the power to alter the course of a fatal disease, I would do it. For example, if somebody were going to have Huntington's, and I knew that they were going to have it, and I had a genetic remedy for that, I would use it. And so the difference, I think, is optimizing a lifestyle rather than saving a life.
Yeah, but I wonder, I mean, it sounds to me...
I think there's a big difference between that.
Do you think there is?
I do, and I like the distinction that Bill has drawn. The answer I would give, I think, is in sympathy with that. The answer I would give to Elliot's question is, yes, we should give access and the opportunities that go with biomedical breakthroughs and genetic science, by all means. I would say, for medical purposes, yes. For non-medical purposes, to turn biotech into an instrument, not of medicine, not of curing or preventing disease, but an instrument essentially of the consumer society, turning children into commodities, being able to pick and choose the genetic traits of children. That, I think, is morally troubling, and that we should distinguish between the two. Take sex selection. Now, embryo screening for sex selection was used for a time to screen for certain diseases, hemophilia and so on, that were carried by sex. Now we can screen more directly for those diseases. But the same embryo screening that is used to screen for genetic abnormalities can be used for purely preferential, non-medical sex selection. You can go today to a doctor in Los Angeles at a for-profit fertility clinic, pay $18,000, and choose whether to have a boy or a girl. And there's another one of these clinics in Fairfax, Virginia, also for-profit, and they use a device. You don't even have to screen an embryo. It's preconception.
It doesn't involve that additional moral problem because of use of an embryo.
Right.
So there's no issues that relating to sort of life and embryo and abortion. It's
right.
A very
even before you
issue.
get an embryo.
Very clean issue.
And the way they do it is by sperm sorting. It turns out that the X-bearing and Y-bearing sperm have a different weight, and they can put it through a machine. The machine, by the way, they call the process microsort, and the machine The machine was developed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture to breed cattle, and an entrepreneur discovered there would be a market for sex selection, non-medical sex selection in human beings. I think that's troubling because it puts parents in the role of really turning children into commodities, to consumer goods. That when we order up a car, we specify the color, the interior, the decor, the tires, and so on. But that's what cars are for. Cars are commodities. They're for the sake of giving pleasure. Children are not for the sake of being commodities, and the risk of going beyond the medical use is that we will recast, I think, the relation of parents to children.
But Michael, who are you to tell me as a parent?
Just a friend.
All right, well, thank you.
I'm not.
No, but honestly, it seems to me that you're running against the current, arguably, of all of human evolution, which is to control our environment and improve our speed. No, wait a second. And so, what is the difference? What is the difference?
Let
Fundamental.
me say that daughter is unlikely to be controllable.
Which daughter?
Well, as the
Given my
father of 4
experience.
daughters, I can agree with that.
Yes. But nonetheless, it will be a daughter.
That comes as a relief, sort of, to know that.
I mean, it just seems to me fundamentally anti-progress. Well, I mean,
Right.
what is the difference between accepting that my son is only going to be 5'2",
Right.
when in fact, because of what Bill has discovered, he can be 6'2",
Right.
and for me accepting that if my son gets cystic fibrosis, he's going to die?
Right.
Well, I mean, what is the difference? Who are you to say the difference between improvement and cure?
Right.
I mean, why? And is this something for our professors and philosophers to tell us? Is it
We
for the
do
state
make
to
a
tell us?
distinction between health and illness and between different forms of wellness. And it is the goal of medicine, and most of us who work in medicine, to cure disease. That is the social good for which we are invested. That is why we devote our lives to what it is that we do. And I think you would find most people in the profession who create the knowledge and who use the knowledge to be deeply and sincerely interested in improving human health. That is not the case for the profession in improving and optimizing what is fashionable.
Well, but can we stop it? Can we stop it? Some of us heard Lance Armstrong talking today. I mean, steroids, probably an easy example, because steroids are always bad for you. But what if Bill develops something that is absolutely and perfectly safe? And if I take it, I can run twice as fast, or I can hit 50-foot home runs. And if it's invented, who in the world is going to stop people from taking it? And I'd say that many people might think baseball would be better if everyone could hit a 450-foot home run once out of 50 pitches instead of once out of 500.
Let me give you a different definition. One of the goals of a new field that's emerging called regenerative medicine, which is beyond stem cell, is in a sense to level the genetic playing field through medicine. We are increasingly, as our population ages, understanding that many diseases that we took for granted can be delayed and possibly avoided. Heart disease is a great example. We are now in this country and Western countries experiencing a significant decline in the rate of heart disease. Why? Half of it is lifestyle, and half of it is medical intervention. Now, that is, I think, a medical good, although it's a rather subtle medical good. It's not improving your performance, it's improving your lifespan. And I would guess that if I look in this room, half of the people here or more are experiencing that benefit. And there are a number of other examples. We hope one day, and I think it is likely, that we'll be able to do the same for Alzheimer's. That we did take Alzheimer's as inevitable decay. We now know it isn't. We have very specific ways of intervening. And I think most of us would think it a great good if we could slow the progress or prevent it.
Okay, but what about
altogether?
But what if that very drug...
And that is optimizing our lifespan and our
I agree, but what if that very drug that reverses the effects of Alzheimer's, as it probably will, because many of these are dual-use drugs, also can enhance mental ability.
In fact, the
And
current
enhance.
drugs do.
So, all right, so what?
They're designer amphetamines.
So why, if that particular drug will reverse someone's Alzheimer's, why can I not take it to enhance my own mental ability, to enhance my memory? And how is that different? And isn't that the same slippery slope that you're all complaining about? And it seems to me inevitable. What if we can improve intelligence? Isn't it in the interests of the human species to do anything possible? Your friend James Watson, you sometimes debate, the co-inventor of, the co-founder of the double helix, structure of DNA. I mean, he's recently quoted
Actually,
as
God
saying,
founded it, but he discovered it.
all right, that's right. He said stupidity is a disease that can be cured.
Right. Well, here's what I would